It only takes a split second for everything to change. One moment, a star is laughing backstage. The next, they collapse without warning. Another wakes up to strange white patches spreading across their skin, a disease even their own mother had never heard of. We look at celebrities and assume they have it all: the fame, the wealth, the luxury, the spotless perfection. But the truth is far harsher. There's one thing even millions of dollars can't protect: health. Behind Hollywood's red carpets lies a hidden world of rare, vicious illnesses that struck 10 black stars with devastating force. Some fought quietly for years, some never made it to the end of their story, and some will break your heart the moment you hear what happens to them. So grab some tissues, you're gonna need them. And before we dive in, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss the stories Hollywood tries to hide.
Danny Glover, the seizures that nearly ended a legend before he began. Before Danny Glover became the fearless, unbreakable hero of Lethal Weapon, his life was shaped by a hidden battle few ever saw. As a young boy, he suffered from epilepsy, a condition that struck without warning. His first seizure happened at home, sudden, silent, terrifying, his body locking up as his mother watched, powerless. Many more followed, at school, on the streets, in public places where fear mixed with embarrassment. People didn't understand. Friends kept their distance, teachers froze, and Danny learned early that epilepsy didn't just attack the body, it chipped away at confidence, safety, and dreams for the future. But he refused to give in. Glover trained himself to recognize the faint signals before a seizure began. He focused his breathing, clenched his fists, and fought for control. Then, against overwhelming odds, the seizures stopped as he reached adulthood, a medical rarity. Now in his 70s, he knows they could return, but the fear that once ruled his life, that's long gone.
Bernie Mac, the rare disease that laughed while it killed him. Bernie Mac could make the world roar with laughter, but behind that booming voice was a body slowly breaking down. At just 26, when his comedy career was rising, his lungs began fighting against him. Violent coughing fits, breathless nights, pain that wrapped around his chest like barbed wire. Doctors finally revealed the truth: sarcoidosis, a rare autoimmune disease that turns the body against itself, attacking the lungs, liver, eyes, even the heart. Bernie refused to slow down. While millions watched the Bernie Mac show, he was backstage gasping for air, hiding exhaustion behind a fearless grin. By 2005, the disease shredded his lungs so severely he coughed up blood. In 2007, he collapsed on set, unable to breathe. The damage was irreversible. On August 9, 2008, Bernie Mac took his final breath, a warrior who kept the world laughing even as disease tightened its grip around his own life. Charlie Murphy, the deadly blood cancer that struck without mercy. A Navy veteran, fearless comedian, and legendary storyteller, he carried a presence as sharp and unapologetic as his humor. But in late 2016, his body began sending warnings he couldn't ignore. Crushing fatigue, persistent pain, pale skin, then unexplained bruises and rapid weight loss. The diagnosis was devastating: acute myeloid leukemia, one of the most aggressive and lethal blood cancers known. To make matters worse, Charlie carried a rare genetic mutation that made treatment far more difficult. The odds were never in his favor. Still, he fought. Chemotherapy tore through his body, draining his strength, stealing his hair, and wearing him down day by day. But it never took his spirit. Even as his condition worsened, Charlie kept joking, lifting the people around him while quietly bearing his own pain. AML moved fast, too fast. On April 12, 2017, just months after his diagnosis, Charlie Murphy passed away in a New York hospital, having kept his illness private, determined to be remembered for his strength, not his suffering. Hank Gathers, the basketball phenom whose heart betrayed him. Hank Gathers was built for greatness, a fierce scorer, a rising star whose athleticism electrified every arena. But during a game in December 1989, he suddenly collapsed after a free throw. He woke up quickly, brushing it off with a smile, but doctors weren't fooled. Tests revealed hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a dangerous thickening of the heart wall that could trigger sudden death at any moment. Medication slowed his heart and his game. Unwilling to lose his edge, Hank quietly cut his dose. It was a fatal gamble. On March 4, 1990, after a signature thunderous dunk, he jogged back on defense, then stumbled. Seconds later, he crashed to the floor as the arena fell silent. Medics fought for his life with CPR on the court, but his heart had already surrendered. 90 minutes later, the hospital confirmed the tragedy. The superstar destined for the NBA was gone forever.
Winnie Harlow, the flawed skin that turned her into a global icon. Winnie Harlow never fit the image of beauty the world expected, and for a long time, that difference nearly broke her. At just 4 years old, pale white patches began to appear across her skin, spreading without warning. Doctors soon gave the diagnosis, vitiligo, an autoimmune condition that strips skin of its pigment and offers no cure, no timeline, no certainty. What followed was years of cruelty. School became a daily nightmare. Children whispered, stared, and hurled names like cow, freak, and contagious. Friends slowly disappeared. Mirrors became enemies. The isolation grew so heavy that depression took hold, and there were moments when Winnie felt like disappearing might be easier than existing. But fate had something else in store. In 2014, she walked onto the stage of America's Next Top Model, an industry built on sameness, where few believed a girl with patchy skin belonged. Instead of fading, she stood out. Her confidence, presence, and unapologetic authenticity shattered every expectation. Runways opened, Vogue covers followed, luxury fashion houses lined up. Vitiligo didn't limit her beauty. It defined it. Winnie Harlow proved that what the world calls a flaw can become the very mark of a global icon.
Tyon T-Boz Watkins, the death sentence she refused to accept. Before TLC became the best-selling girl group of the 90s, young Tyon Watkins was handed a fate no child should hear. At age 7, pain ripped through her bones and joints so violently she could barely breathe. Doctors diagnosed sickle cell disease, a rare, life-threatening blood disorder, then told her she wouldn't live past 30. But T-Boz refused to let her life be measured by statistics. While other kids played, she survived endless hospital stays. And when fame arrived, the disease followed her onto the stage. She fainted backstage, collapsed during concerts, and nearly lost her kidneys. Pregnancy in 2000 was nearly fatal. Doctors warned she could die during childbirth. She did it anyway, and survived. In 2006, pneumonia nearly ended everything. Still, she rose again. Now in her 50s, T-Boz remains living proof that no doctor, no chart, no prognosis can define a warrior's destiny. Layla Ali, the unbeatable fighter who faced an invisible opponent. Layla Ali dominated the boxing world with a perfect 24-0 record, proving she carried her father Muhammad Ali's legendary fire. But outside the ring, she was losing a battle no opponent could ever prepare her for. It began with relentless dryness, eyes burning like sandpaper, a mouth so parched even water couldn't soothe it. Her skin cracked, her fingers throbbed, and exhaustion hit harder than any punch she'd ever taken. Doctors dismissed her for years. Dehydration, stress, overtraining. The truth was far worse. Sjogren's syndrome, a rare autoimmune disorder that attacks the body's moisture-producing glands. There is no cure, only management. Her teeth weakened, her joints ached, and some mornings she couldn't even clench a fist. But Layla Ali has never been built to surrender.
She restructured her entire life, fought for stability, and used her platform to raise awareness. Inside and outside the ring, she remains undefeated.
Gary Coleman was once America's favorite kid, the sharp-eyed, quick-witted star of Different Strokes whose catchphrase lit up television screens nationwide. But behind the fame was a brutal truth he could never escape. Born with a rare congenital kidney disease, likely nephrosis, Gary's body stopped growing long before his childhood ended. While his peers shot up, he remained frozen at 4 feet 8, trapped physically and professionally as Hollywood's eternal child. 2 kidney transplants failed. Dialysis dominated his life. Anti-rejection drugs caused episodes of near paralysis. And when Different Strokes ended, Hollywood had no place for the boy who still looked 10 years old. Then came betrayal. Millions he earned were siphoned away by his adoptive parents and manager. By 1999, he was bankrupt, exhausted, and in failing health. In 2010, after a fall at home led to a brain hemorrhage, Gary Coleman died at just 42. A tragic end to a life defined by a disease he never chose and could never outrun.
Michael Jackson, the disease that changed the king of pop forever. Michael Jackson dazzled the world with moonwalks, record-breaking hits, and an artistic genius unmatched in music history. But while fans obsessed over his evolving appearance, few understood the real force behind it: vitiligo, a rare autoimmune disorder that erases skin pigment in unpredictable spreading patches. It began in the early 1980s, small white spots he hid under layers of makeup as Thriller made him a global titan. But vitiligo moved fast, transforming his skin tone dramatically. Instead of compassion, the world mocked him, accusing him of bleaching his skin to deny his black identity. The truth was far more painful. Depigmentation treatments left his skin hypersensitive, his immune system weakened. Depression, chronic pain, and heavy sedatives followed. In 2009, while preparing This Is It, an overdose ended his life. Only after his death did the autopsy confirm what he had endured: vitiligo across his entire body. A misunderstood genius, judged for a disease he could never control.
Nayakim Gatwech, the woman with skin so dark even science can't explain it. Nayakim didn't just break beauty standards, she shattered them. Her skin, a deep, luminous black that absorbs rather than reflects light, became her signature. But growing up, that uniqueness made her a target. Kids called her Black Hole. Adults whispered she was cursed, and the pressure to bleach her skin nearly crushed her. Yet when she entered modeling, the world stopped and stared. Dermatologists debated whether she had full-body hypermelanosis, an extremely rare condition where the body produces extraordinary levels of melanin. Typically, hypermelanosis appears in patches, but Nayakim's entire body radiates the same breathtaking tone. If true, she may be the first documented case of its kind. But Nayakim doesn't need medical validation. She turned her once-mocked complexion into a global symbol of beauty, pride, and power. Today, she stands as living proof that what makes you different is exactly what makes you unforgettable.
The diseases these 10 black stars faced weren't just rare, they were ruthless. Some battled silently for decades, masking pain behind cameras, concerts, and red carpets. Others were taken in an instant, their brilliance extinguished long before the world was ready to say goodbye. Their journeys remind us of a truth we often forget. Fame can open doors, money can buy comfort, but neither can shield a person from the fragility of the human body. Yet within these stories of loss are also stories of resilience, artists who fought back, defied impossible odds, and turned their suffering into strength. Their legacies challenge us to live with more empathy, more awareness, and more gratitude for the health we often take for granted. So tell me, which story stayed with you the longest?
Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next untold chapter hidden behind Hollywood's brightest lights.